In this episode, we're going to look at another way of refactoring our tests to tidy them up. Hi, I'm Mark Bradley, and welcome to Testing All the Things, a screencast in which we use live coding to demonstrate different types of testing tools and techniques. In episode 43, we looked at refactoring our tests of the bowling game kata and deleting tests that covered duplicate behaviour. In this episode, we're going to look at using table-driven tests to tidy up our tests without actually removing any duplication. Let's look at the code. Like in episode 43, we're going to do the bowling game kata. We're going to slowly work through our implementation until we get to a point where we want to refactor the tests, and then we'll refactor. But instead of removing our tests, we'll collapse them down into a table test. So let's make a start. As with all attempts at the bowling game kata, I'm going to start with a gutter ball game. So, ball game. Okay. And we're going to use assert equals. Okay. So we expect the score to be 0 for bowling dot score. Okay, so we're doing a representation of the game of bowling as a string. So we do dash dash to mean both balls miss all pins. And for a game of bowling, there are 10 frames. So go repeat pace 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like so. Okay. There we are, we have that. So we need to import bowling and create, oh no, so we do it here, func score takes a game, which is a string, returns an int, like so, return 1. Okay, so we now have our code in a position where the tests will run and the code will compile. So let's run our tests. Let's read that. Code's just compiling. There we have it. Right, let's just shrink this a bit. Like so. Okay. And we can look at our test failure. So look at the gutter ball game. Okay. So we expected 0, but we actually got 1. So we know how to fix this because of our previous bowling game katas. The quickest way to ensure the gutter ball game test passes at this point would just to be return 0. Okay. And we run the tests, see it will pass again. It does pass. So we're now in a position to move on to our next test. New test. Okay. So we're going to do single pin first frame. So we'll take this line, copy, paste, and single pin. Yeah. Okay. And we expect that to be 1. Save, run this. Okay. So we've got 1 failure on the single pin. We expected 1, but we got 0. So, keeping to the strict rules of test-driven development, we're just going to do the easiest thing to make this test pass at this point. So we'll do if game equals, and copy paste this in to our implementation. If the game looks like so, return 1. Okay, so save that, run it. Okay, so both our tests pass. We're now in a position to move on to our next test. Okay, and so we're checking for that first pin in the first frame. So now we want to check for the first pin in the first 2 frames. So let's do that. New test. Single pin first 2 frames. Okay, quick copy paste job again. So we want the second frame first pin to be 1. We run the tests. Again, our test is failing. Let's see what we expect. So we expected 2, we got 0 because our game didn't match this one here. So we can just quickly fix this again. Else if game equals, take this one, copy, paste, return 2, edit this. Okay, so all of our tests should pass again. Let's hope we fixed it correctly, and we have. Okay, so let's move on now to the next one. So we'll take this in the first 3 frames. So our score at this point should be 3. We'll run our tests. Okay, let's do passing test as well. There we are. Okay, so we expected 3, but again we got 0. Okay, at this point we could continue to copy paste and add each variation of the game and check that the string matches. But that's not going to be very efficient. It's not very good code. It's definitely not very maintainable. So what we're going to do at this point is we are going to move our implementation to something a little bit more towards our final implementation of the scoring function, but we're going to step away from this string matching here. Okay, so what we can do is we can okay, so let's keep that there for reference for now. So something like score, score equals 0. Okay, and then we can, what did we do last time? So we so if we do strings dot split, yep, the game by spaces, like so, then we have frames. So frames equals, so that's taking, if we use this as an example, it takes this and chunks it into 1 dash and dash 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 and so on. So those are our frames. So now we can loop through each of our frames. So we can do for range of frames as frame, and we don't need the index at the moment, so we'll just ignore that. Frame is perfect, not duplicating it, no. Okay, so we can do something like if frame, and we're interested in the first element, this first bit here for each of them. We can do if frame at 0 does not equal, the dash, then we can do score plus plus. We can increment the score by 1. That's our understanding at the moment. If there's not a dash, we increment by 1 and we can return the score. So, oh yeah, so it needs to be a room. There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's compiles that compiler. Don't need that. Okay, there we are. That's a little neater. Save that and run our tests. And do they all pass? They do all pass. Excellent. Okay. But we've got this duplication. For now, we're going to ignore it. We're going to carry on and we're going to finish off our single pin scoring and then we'll do a tidy up. So let's go on to the next test. New test. So we can now move on to twos. Test 2 pins first. Or do we want to do 2, or like we did in the last one, do we just want to check all of the numbers? So check something like first pin simple scoring. Yeah, okay. And if we take this line, do what we did last time. So we can start going. So instead of, so we'll start with a dash and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. Okay, so that's kind of slowly showing the behavior we're expecting. Probably jumping ahead a little bit. That's just to kind of speed this video up a bit. I probably would do the 2s and then move into stuff. But we're just going to speed this up a little bit. So if we run all the tests, okay, we have a failure. Oh, hang on. It's not 3. We're not expecting 3. We're expecting 45. Remember correctly. Okay. So we'll run the test again. The expectation was wrong. Okay, there we go. So we expected 45, but we got 9. So how can we do this? So just incrementing by 1 doesn't work anymore. We need to increment our score by the number in that frame. So what we can do is score plus equals frame 0. Can we just cast that to an int? Yes, we can. There we go. Okay. So I think that should work. Let's run it and see. No, that doesn't work. That's the wrong casting, I think. Okay, that's how I did it last time. It was a bit easier, so we can do this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll take last time's balls equals strings split the frame. So just taking that here and splitting those into 2 bits. We've got the balls, and then the ball is a string. So balls 0, and then do points equals returns an error, but at the moment we know it's going to only be a numeric. That'll be fine. So ball 0. Points. And then this goes back to being a string. Yeah, okay. So that should work, and now we should get the right scores. There we go, we do. So all the scores are correct. Okay. And now we've kind of completed the implementation of all of the kind of single scoring of the first ball of any frame. So we've got 1, and we've got 2 here, and we've got 3, and then we've got 45, using all of the just plain numeric values in the first ball of any frame, and all of the numeric values are there. There's no special cases other than 0 being a dash. Okay, but we've got quite a lot of tests here for this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tests. I think we should leave the gutter ball game test as a special case because it's different from these ones where we're looking at the numbers specifically. But what I think we can do now is we can refactor these tests into a table test. Okay, so new, and our IDE gives us the opportunity to just make one straight up. So we do generate a table test. We will call it first pin numeric points. Okay. Okay. So we've got string test name, and we want to add a few other things. So we want game is a string, and expected score is an int, like so. We need to create the test cases, but what we can do first is we can say assert dot equals test, and then we want to do, so we have the expected score. Oh, sorry, test dot expected. No, hang on, don't want these commas here, do we? That's probably my bug. Expected score for bowling game dot score game. Oh no, game. Sorry, test dot game. There we are. Okay, so that's our test set up, and now we need to move our tests from here. So we do. So the name is single pin first ball. First frame, sorry. The game looks like this one. And the expected score is 1. Okay. And comma at the end. What's this got? There we are. Okay, so that looks like it should run. Let's run that. Make sure it's all set up correctly. And it passes. Okay. So we need duplicate first 2 frames. 2. So, and we'll bring the next one in. So that's the score of 2. Duplicate first 3 frames. 3. And then the last one to bring in is our simple score. We'll copy this line. So first frame, simple numeric score, a simple score. Sorry, no, first ball. Okay. Now we'll run our tests. Oh, got a failure. I think that's because I forgot to set this to 45. Run that. There we go. And as we can see now, we've got our test running, and here it shows us. So we've got the first test first pin numeric points, which is the name of our test function here, and then single pin first frame, which is the name of here each of our tests. So Go does this really nice thing of kind of showing you each test within the table test as a separate test, but also showing you which test it's in. And there we have it. So that was nice and clean. So at this point, these tests can be removed. Save. And we have our first table test for the test first pin numeric points. So now we're in the position to create, start working on the second ball of any frame. And here we need to make a decision on how our tests should look. Should we continue working on this table test, or should we add another table test for the second pin and keep the understanding separate? This is kind of up to you, kind of stylistically. You could continue to add them here, or you could create a separate table test. It depends on kind of how you want your tests to be read. For now, what we'll do is we'll start a new table test for the second ball. So second ball numeric points. So because we made this, so we did the first table test as a refactoring to bring a number of tests into one table test. You could make the decision to go straight to table tests from the outset, or as we're doing now, we've seen that the table tests give us a nicer test setup, so we can continue down this path. So we'll do that. So we've got the second one set up. We will just copy this into here. We will borrow this, put this here. And we're now in a position to start our first test. So if we're following test-driven development, what we're going to do is we're going to add our first test, but instead of creating a whole test function each time, we will just add a new element to our array of tests. So we shall do that. So the test name is single pin first frame. Okay. Our game should look like very similar to this one, so we'll copy and paste it, and the value should be the same. But instead of it being here, it should now be here, where we hit a single pin. Get rid of that comma. Okay. Okay, and away we go. We're now ready to start test driving out the functionality again. If we save, oh, missing comma here. Try again, run. And also, this is another thing, our IDE actually gives us this tidy up as well. So it shows us that there's a table test and each of the elements of that test. Okay, so we'll jump here. So we expected 1, but we got 0. Okay, well, going back to how we implemented the last one, we know the quickest way to do this. So we go if game equals, we'll copy this game, return 1. Save. Does that test pass? Excellent. Yes, it does. Okay. So we're now on to the next one. So we'll just duplicate this line. First 2 frames. Add that 1. Save. Expected value 2. Go back, run our test. This one's failing. It's only the second test of the table. So we expected 2, we got 1. Well, we know how to quickly fix this. I'll do that. So we'll add our second one here and say this returns 2. Okay, so those tests are both passing. So we'll duplicate this. There's 3 frames. Add our extra 1 to there. And make our expected score 3, sorry. Run that test. Yep. There we go. So the third one's failing. Expected 3, we actually got 0. And as we know from the last round of testing, this isn't sustainable. So we want to do something a little bit better. So let's go to here. If ball and the second ball does not equal dash. Points is that. Oh no, it's not. Even easier than that. So score plus plus. Balls. There we are. Okay. So if we run that, all our tests pass, and then we can remove this bit. Save. All our tests are passing. That was a quick introduction to how you can use table tests to test drive your functionality, the behavior of something you're implementing. Either taking it as a refactoring and saying, oh, I want to bring these into a single test, a single table test to make it a little bit neater here, or starting a whole table test from the beginning and just driving out that implementation slowly as you would if you were just using standard test per case. So I'm going to leave the implementation here. If you want to take over and have a go at implementing the remainder of the test, so we've got a add a to do here, to do add second ball simple score test, and then also next to dos would be to do start to cover spares and strikes. So if you want to carry on, you can carry on. So you can start finish off the table test for the simple numeric scoring of the second ball, and then move into the scoring of strikes and spares and continue the implementation and play with table-driven tests. I hope you found this a useful introduction to table tests and you go away and try them on your own code. See you again soon. Thank you for watching this episode of Testing All the Things. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please rate and review the video and subscribe to the channel. If you did not and you have any feedback, please leave a comment in the comment section of the video or contact me on Twitter @Bradle.